Alright, boys and girls, how's it going?
So after somewhere in between Nha Trang and Dalat, which is our next stop in Vietnam, I managed to catch a pretty nasty cold. So we didn't really get to do as much in Dalat as we'd originally hoped. We did do an awesome day on an easy rider, which is where you sit on the back of a motorbike and they like drive you around and take you to loads of places, and that was really, really awesome. But we did not film our review of that at the time because I was feeling like death. So we're going to do it now.
Yes, so the Easy Rider day was a full day, like it was a good 8 to 10 hours that we did. It was $20 each, and we got a bike each and a driver that took us around. They were locals, so I know the guy that I was on the bike with, he'd been doing it for the last like 12, 13 years. So he really knew his stuff, he really knew the area. And they show up at your hotel, they give you a helmet, and off you go. And they tell you where they're going to take you, and then if you want to add extra places, they go, well, it'll cost you an extra $2 or $3 to do that.
And you decide if you want to do it or not.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
And they're really good drivers, They're really good drivers. They make you feel really safe. Like, I was really anxious. I've never ridden on a motorbike or anything. I was really worried I was going to feel like I was going to die all day, given that I was still recovering from my cold and I felt a bit rubbish anyway. I was a bit anxious, but they were I was just like, oh, I'm a bit anxious. And they're like, oh, you go on this guy, he'll drive really carefully. And I felt completely safe all day.
And they were really polite, they were really friendly, they were just really nice guys, actually. And you'll see, it has been a little bit of time since we filmed all the extra footage, but who cares, as long as you get the review, okay? So we were staying in the sunny Dalat Hotel, and there are two, so be careful of that.
I'll put a link to the one we stayed in down below.
Yeah. So they arrived to our hotel about 8:30 in the morning, and we met them outside there. We had a quick chat, and they said, right, do you want to have breakfast or do you want to just get going? And we're like, oh, well, let's get going.
A, because we don't really eat breakfast, and B, because I was like, nope, I'm a vomit risk.
Our first stop then was a Buddhist temple just on the outskirts of the city. So we were actually staying just a little bit out of the city centre, and then just on the outskirts, maybe 2 or 3 minutes ride from where we were staying, there was this big the Buddhist temple, and he gave us an overview of
Buddhism in Vietnam.
And I think he said like 80% of the country is Buddhist, and then although it is still quite religious, not a lot of the younger generation still practice Buddhism.
Karma is like a really strong theme in Vietnam. So we did notice when we were there, everyone seemed really friendly and like really kind and really helpful. Vietnam is very, very safe. Don't be an idiot.
So we had a wander around here, there were some fantastic big statues. And he was telling us how it's also an orphanage, so a lot of the kids who are orphans, they'll be actually left at this temple, and the monks or the nuns will actually take them in and raise them as one of their own, and then when they start to hit 17, 18, they're given the option to either go to university or leave the temple, or they can continue being a monk, but they can also stay as a monk and go to university, or leave and go to university, and the monks will actually pay for all of that. So we thought that was great.
Yeah. Hugely pro.
Yeah, we took a walk around the gardens. We didn't really want to go inside because it seemed quite rude. There were people practicing there.
They were doing like a ceremony or something.
Yeah.
Something was happening in there, and we sort of had a quick peek in, but we didn't want to walk in and be like, oh, hello, we're here to take pictures of you.
Yes.
Thank you. And then the next thing we did was we drove quite a while out of the city, out of Dalat, up into the mountains, which is absolutely gorgeous, and it smelt like pine the whole time we were just driving along. And then they're like, oh, do you want to climb up this hill? It gives you a really great view. It's like 100 metres, and we were like, we can walk 100 metres. It was like the cliff that we were walking up.
It was very steep.
It was so steep, and like, as previously mentioned, I was feeling like death. So it took us about an hour or something to walk this 100 metres, because I had to be like, stop, I'm going to vomit, we need to stop.
We got to the top and she basically just crumpled on the floor like, bah!
But we did it, and it was a beautiful view.
So the next place that we went to was a weasel poo coffee farm, which I know you're thinking, what, poo? It's actually delicious.
But it is actually also poo.
It is actually poo. You see them, you get up there, and our guide showed us all the coffee plantations and showed us the different beans. So it's like Arabica, Mocha, and I can't remember what he said the third bean was. But there are 3 main beans, and what happens is, originally back in the day, farmers were losing about 1/3 of their crop to the mountain weasels. And what they realised was, as the weasels ate the berries, It was going through the digestive tract and they were pooping it out, but it was only the berry that was gone. The bean was still intact, and it is just perfectly intact. So what they do is they scoop it all up, wash it, roast it like a normal coffee bean, and grind it up all the same. And you get to see all the little weasels, and they're all sleeping and comfortable because they're nocturnal. And then he showed us some of the poo, which are just big clumpy, fluffy lumps you'll see.
And then like the cleaned ones, and then the roasted ones, and then the ground up. And then you can go up into this little cafe that's beautiful deck overlooking all of the coffee plantations.
Fantastic view.
Stunning. And you can sit on this little deck and have a cup of weasel poo coffee, or other coffee. They do have other coffees. But I mean, when in Weasel Poo Town.
Yes, so the Weasel Poo coffee is more expensive. So instead of the 30,000 that they were charging for a normal cup of coffee, it was 60,000.
Which is maybe like £1.
It's like £2.
£2. So still cheaper than Starbucks.
Yeah.
And it's already been digested by another animal.
So I asked the woman because they had 3 weasel poo and they had 3 normal, and I said, which of the weasel poos do you recommend? She said, my favourite is the weasel poo cherry. So I went, tell a lie, weasel poo mocha, because I almost went for the cherry. And I went, fantastic. Got that, and she said, do you want milk with it? And I said, no, I just want to try it as is. And the advantage of it going through a weasel is it takes a lot of the acidity out. So the coffee was very smooth. There wasn't any bitter notes to it. It was actually delicious. I would really highly recommend drinking some weasel poo coffee if you get the chance to.
I mean, I thought it was okay. I'm not a huge coffee fan. I thought this was alright. Yeah, again, I'm not feeling very well, so I took like the smallest sip and was like, yeah, that's fine, done.
Well, I drank the whole thing and thoroughly enjoyed it. Really, really good.
And it's a fun experience, and I'd say definitely sitting on that deck and looking over the whole plantation was really nice.
On to the next place. We went to a cricket farm that also made Happy Water.
Is it Happy? Yeah.
Yes, Happy Water. So Happy Water is their distilled rice wine, the strongest being about 60% and the weakest being about 20%. And we got there and we got to see all the crickets, and he was telling us about the different ages. Basically, they just have these big square cement spaces.
Container things.
And they have plastic at the top so the crickets can't get out. And they put in a load of grasses and leaves and stuff like that, dump in the young crickets, and then just let them grow for months. And then we sat down.
And then they deep fry them and serve them to you.
Yep, we got a nice bowl of deep fried crickets with a bit of garlic and chili sauce on the side. And I gotta say, actually, I was really surprised. They're kind of like slightly oily crisps.
Yeah, they were okay. They were really, really crunchy, like a little bit soft in the middle, but mostly just like crunchy on the outside. And they were like salted, and then with the sauce. Yeah. I don't think you could distinguish them necessarily as like insect. They were alright. Yeah, fine.
But they were really good, and you drank that with your Happy Water.
I was not happy with the Happy Water.
No, you didn't drink any of it, but I had a couple of glasses, but they serve them in teeny tiny little shot glasses, like much smaller than a shot glass, maybe like a third less than a sake glass. And it was just like a little old family there. I think the guide said they produced about 5 to 10 litres a day. Of the rice wine, and that all gets sold into the local area, but they're really small, mainly just for this little town that they produce for. But really good rice wine, and I really actually enjoyed crickets. They were nice. So the next stop after that was a rice noodle factory. We got to go in, look at all the machines that they have that are used to chop up the noodles and how they're
different types of noodles.
Yeah, they're really, really cool. They basically take all the rice and they like cook it up in these big vats and turn it into like a mush, and then they have this mush being like pumped into a machine which sprays it onto what was it, silk?
Yeah, some sort of like fabric, like a really gentle, like muslin or something.
Yeah.
And it sprays it onto there and then steams it from underneath. So it cooks this like rice. It's like a liquid when it goes on, and it cooks the rice mush in really thin layers, which then get chopped up and make the raw rice noodles.
Yeah, you've seen like the videos of where like old school videos or old school cartoons where they have the giant tracks, the wheels, and it pulls it along. And you can see, and it's all steam coming out of it, and the noodles are going up, and then they get to I don't know, maybe it's like, it's definitely a couple of meters that they go over just getting cooked and moved, and then they cool them down a bit, and then there's just this big chopper and it goes duck, 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 duck. And they did 3 types of noodle there. So they did like long, flat, thin ones, and they did slightly thinner, thicker, square ones, and then they did the round ones as we know them.
And then they also did one that was with mushrooms. So they had like a big old bag of dried mushrooms out the front, and then as they were taking the noodles, these were like flat ones, as they were taking them off the conveyor belt, they were just like shoving a few mushrooms in. So then as the noodles cool down, they also cooked the mushrooms, and then the noodles tasted all mushroomy, which was pretty cool.
They did look really good, and you got them in big barrels when they were like, put some noodle down, put some mushroom on it, noodle, mushroom, and yeah, that was pretty cool.
And they tasted really nice. We were like allowed to taste it and like poke the stuff on the conveyor belt. The guy took us like all around and was like, look, poke this, and we were like, poke.
So the next place we went to was
The silkworm farm.
And you really enjoyed the silkworm farm.
I did like the silkworm farm. That you get to see the little silkworms, and our guide stopped us from the previous location and got us to pick some mulberry leaves so that we could bribe the silkworms to like pay attention to us with the mulberry leaves, so we could feed them some mulberry leaves. That was cool. And then we saw them like in their little silk cocoons, and then we saw them being boiled alive in their little silk cocoons, and that was less sweet.
Yeah, something we didn't realise was, because when we got there they were all just squatching around doing their silkwormy things, just like blip, 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 blip. You throw in the mulberry leaves, and you're like, yeah,
You're like,
they don't give a monkeys, like they're caterpillars. And then what they do is they start to cocoon themselves, and it's kind of like it's just like a little thing about the size of my thumb. It's all fluffy on the outside,
kind of hollow feeling.
Yeah, and you can, like, if you shake it a little bit, you can hear the silkworm blobbing around. And what they do is they take those and put them on racks. And then the racks act like tree branches, so the silkworms attach themselves, make the cocoon from there. And the reason why they have to boil them is if they allow the silkworm to pupate, the silk is destroyed. It's not usable.
It's used to feed the growing silkworm.
Pupa, yeah.
Yeah, it's used to feed that. So if they let them mature, then they lose all the silk. And if they try and get them out, then they just die anyway. So
yeah, so what they do is they have these big vats, and they throw them into the boiling water, and they rattle around a bit, and then they die.
It's so sad.
And then what they do is they pick at the silk, and strangely, the silk is actually just one continuous thing, and it's just wrapped and wrapped and wrapped and wrapped and wrapped and wrapped. What they do is they get the end of it, they find the end of it, attach it onto a little wheel, and then the wheel just pulls it and starts going and unravels the entire thing until the silkworm is left, and then that gets taken and it's processed into actual
silk fabric
clothing. Yeah. Then they like stick it all together into these big massive sheets of silk, and it is just pure white. There's no bleaching, nothing. It is
it's kind of a creamy colour. It doesn't come out like bright white. It comes out kind of like a bit like off-white kind of cream.
Yeah, you know when you get nice fancy paper, it's that kind of colour of white, that non-treated white colour.
Yeah, and then they'll dye it different colours. So when we were there, she was dyeing a batch of blue silk, so we got to watch her do that. I think our guide accidentally splashed it all up his arm.
Yes, he did. He was trying to pick it up.
He was trying to show us it, and then he splashed it out. She was just like, move aside, noob, and just did it, and was like, oh, beautiful. She
was like this really ancient old lady, and she's just like scoop, and he was quite a young strapping guy, and he just like came over and he was like, and was like fighting with it, and she was just like, mate, come on. But that was pretty cool.
They also had the opportunity to try silkworm larvae there.
Yeah, that wasn't so good. I tried that, and yeah, I think if they were fresh, because they were fried, like shallow fried, in with garlic and chili, but they'd been sitting out a little while, so the oil had kind of seeped in, and they weren't that good. But it was like crispy on the outside and mushy in the center. I think if they were hot, they would have been good, but they weren't. And something that we didn't realize is when they make silk is actually really rough. When it's been first processed, they actually have to go through another step. I believe it's boiling. And once they boil it, that's actually what gives silk its softness, and it was really, really weird.
Yes, it felt when it first came off the machine after they'd like pulled it off the silk cocoons and then weaved it into this machine. when it first came off as a material, it was quite rough. It was not smooth at all. It
Yeah.
wasn't like that silky loveliness that you associate with silk.
It felt like canvas, if you've ever felt canvas, like a painter's canvas. That kind of material that you put on the floor because it's cheap. That's what it really felt like. And then after the boiling, and it had been treated and dyed, she showed us again, and it had that beautifully smooth, silky touch.
Yeah, it was nice after that.
Yeah, it was quite weird. Right, after that, we went to the Elephant Falls.
Yeah,
Well-
which is this really beautiful waterfalls, apparently.
So we got there, and the guy was like, make sure you go down together. The track is really, really narrow.
And really steep
And it's
quite
really
difficult.
steep, and it's quite difficult. And at this point, the day was getting quite hot. So Charlotte decided to sit back.
I found this really beautiful, like after about maybe like a 2-minute walk, I've done some really steep steps and stuff. There's this little tiny cliff with a very little waterfall there that was really beautiful. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to make it all the way down. This was like after our cliff experience in the morning. I was like, I'm not going to make it all the way down, all the way back up again. I'll just like pass out or throw up or something. So I was just like, no.
Yeah.
Because I've been sick for the last few days, I've not eaten for like 3 days really.
She
So
didn't
I was
have
just,
much strength.
I was just throwing it all back up again. So I didn't really have much strength in me, and I was like, I can't do it. So I tapped out and just sat there and looked at this really beautiful little waterfall and had a great time. Michael did the full trek.
Yeah, so I went down, and it's a really interesting area because it's like loads of massive boulders that have kind of just come together. So you got to do a lot of climbing, jumping over like chasms. If you do make a slip, I'd imagine it's quite painful to fall down one of those because there was quite a far fall and they were quite steep. And they have this like really brittle old metal pipe that goes along so you can hold on to.
It didn't look that stable.
It isn't. Like if you were gonna fall, you're gonna fall kind of thing. But that was really cool. Got right down to the bottom, and you'll see in the footage that like the river's flying off and there's all this steam coming up off it as it's splashing. The only downside to it was really dirty. There was lots of rubbish.
Gross.
Like the brown water, you don't really mind, but there was lots of rubbish and it was kind of smelly.
It was kind of sad as well.
Yeah, but as something to see, it was quite impressive to see a waterfall like that because I've never seen a waterfall like that before.
And if you're up for a bit of a trek and a bit of sort of free climbing type of thing, it's a challenging walk. I saw some people go and like they were struggling a lot.
Yeah, it's very sheer stone and it's very brittle stone, so it's very easy for it to like crack and snap and that. And a couple of bits did while I was climbing. I was like, oh God, I'm gonna die. But fortunately, no dead.
Yeah, still not dead.
Too dumb to die. But yeah, climb down to the bottom and then climbing back up. It is like that. So there's lots of so quite difficult. Even though they have steps cut into the stone.
But it's not the whole way. Only some of it's steps and some of it is like boulder.
Yeah, you're
climbing.
literally just bouldering. It's fun, but it is difficult, especially in like 37-degree heat at 90% humidity.
Yeah. So after that, our guide took us for lunch. He was like, "Yep, we are stopping now."
I was so happy because I was just sweat.
Yeah, very sweaty. So we had like a pretty good lunch. Our lunch was okay. It was near the elephant waterfall place.
Yeah.
I think I just had some like veggie noodles or something, and you got pork. It was pretty good.
We went to the Happy Buddha statue on the way back.
Fat Buddha.
Yes, so he told us a bit more about Buddhism and how there was actually there was one of the Indian gods was in there as well. And
Ganesh, was it?
yeah, I
With
think
the
it was
arms?
Ganesh. I think it was Ganesh was on one side, and then I can't remember what other religion was on the other side. But there were 3 religions in this one temple. And there were loads of monks around, and he was like, now if you go around the back, you can see the Happy Buddha, but it looks like you're already acquainted with him. Ha 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 ha. I was like, you bastard.
So Michael's lost quite a lot of weight. You'll see in the footage, we've both lost quite a lot of weight since we filmed this. But even so, we'd already started losing weight at this point. And he was like, you already know the Happy Buddha, huh? And Michael's like...
Oh, I thought I was doing very well with losing weight. And he's like, ha 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 ha. I was like, okay, sad times. I'm just going to go over here and...
So we went and saw Michael's twin.
I'm just going to go shoot myself. It's fine. Don't worry about me.
Yeah, so Vietnam, brutal country.
Yeah, he did not give any fucks. He was like, Happy Buddha. Ha ha ha. Oh.
It's quite cool seeing the statue. It's a nice temple.
We walked around. It was nice enough. And then we pretty much just headed back. They started taking us back. We got some views of the mountains because we were driving around the mountainsides, and he stopped to show us some of those. And we got back to the hotel at like 4:30, 5 o'clock, I think it was. Just wrecked and super tired, but
He
I was
did say
really
that we
happy.
could have gone and seen some of the flower farms and stuff, but we were just like,
It's really tiring just sitting on the back of these bikes.
I mean, it was quite a tiring day. I was very, very tired afterwards.
Yeah, but it was a really, really good day all around. Definitely check it out if you're in the area.
Oh, and the heavens did open whilst we were on our way back.
They did.
So they pulled over at this cafe which had a covered.
Literally
bit.
10 seconds before the clouds opened
Yeah.
up, we pulled in and just went woof.
Yeah, and we just got there. It was very dramatic, absolutely beautiful, but glad
Lots
we
of
weren't out
lightning,
in that.
thunder,
Lots of lightning,
and-
thunder. But this cafe had puppies, so we got to play with the puppies.
So yeah, guys, that's pretty much what we did in Dalat, other than walk around and eat because someone was sick. But
Yeah, I was not very well, so we really didn't get to do much in Dalat. We explored the city a little bit. We didn't really get any footage though.
yeah,
I wasn't really up for more than an hour at a time.
this is our main interesting thing from there. That was the main
The only thing we
good
really did out
Yeah.
around and about.
But yeah, had a great time while we were in Dalat. And the
Oh, Dalat, just really quickly, is famous for its milk. It's where all the cows in Vietnam live. It's the only place that's cool enough to have cows. So if you want Vietnamese milk, then Dalat is the place.
So anyways, guys, that was our top thing to do in Dalat. Don't mind milk. They also make wine there, and coffee's their biggest thing. So yeah,
Good
check
for
it out.
food.
It's a lot cooler than the rest of the country, and yeah, lots of fun. So talk to you soon, guys.